Today I wanted to show you guys kind of how to style an anime wig. This is going to be really laid back, nothing formal. I also want to apologize in advance that I used vertical recording. I did not realize what I was doing until after the video was over. So I kind of wanted to go over a little bit of the process behind styling an anime wig. This is a really universal process and it can be applied to literally any kind of wig that you want to make. So, take this and use it in the future for any of your wig projects. So one of the first steps that I did was obviously make sure that the wig is brushed out. And I don't mean teasing, I mean making sure it's just brushed out and there isn't any pieces of the wig cap from underneath or the structure from underneath that the hair is placed onto sticking out anywhere, because if so, you want to cut those off. And the next thing that I did, which you kind of already saw, was tease the entire wig. So that kind of depends. If you're only doing one spike, then you don't need to tease the entire wig. But if you're styling an entire wig to look like an anime wig, you might want to do that. So the teasing process is really easy. You're going to just take a fine-tooth comb and back brush over and over until it looks like a ratted mess. And then you're going to spray it with Got to Be Glued hairspray, which is what I personally use. I'm sure there's other options, but Got to Be Glued is probably the go-to for most cosplayers. And you're just gonna douse it, not too close, but douse the area in hairspray, and then take a blow dryer to it and dry it. You don't want to still be working with it when it's wet right now. Once you've got the wig fully teased up, if you're going to do that, the next thing you're going to want to do is section things off and start getting an idea of where it is that you're going to be making the spikes, how big they are. For me, I went with a really unconventional method and I kind of just eyeballed it. Most people will section the pieces off, and I did section off a little bit. So for me, I sectioned off the top part and then I just worked on the bottom spikes that weren't as visible as what's going to be on top of the wig that's going to be most visible to everybody when it's on the head. Once I had the sections I wanted to start spiking, I actually got to spiking the hair. So what you're going to do is once you've back teased the area, you're going to kind of forward brush it just a little bit so that the outer fibers of the wig are facing one direction, so you don't just have a giant rat nest in the wig and call it a day. So you're going to want to brush down a little bit and again spray with hairspray, blow dryer, and it's going to start to look like almost a pillar of hair. And once you've got that pillar of hair, you're going to actually start shaping it in the direction and size and style of the spike that you want to make. So for me, I wasn't doing any crazy big spikes yet. So I was just kind of going around and doing layered spikes throughout the bottom part of the wig, and then moved on to the more intricate spikes and hair flips a little later. Now, once I finished a section, I kind of just let it be, and I moved on to the next section, and I, for the most part, worked my way bottom to top. If you work top to bottom, it's going to be really easy to kind of get hair pieces mixed up with the parts you've already done, and it can kind of just become like a big old hassle, and it starts to look kind of messy sometimes. You can do it that way, but personally, I do better when I work bottom up. Once I had all the bottom spikes and the not so visually striking parts of the wig done, I kind of moved my way upwards to the top of the wig and started working on what would be the most visible part of the wig. So for this, I mean, I obviously had a picture up the whole time, and this is on you, whether or not you think you can do it from memory, but I like to have a few reference images of the character so that I can make sure that it looks as close as I can to the character. So from here, I really got to the part where I actually started making the wig look as much like the characters I could. Working on the top part, I could actually start shaping the wig and the spikes to match the hair color of, or not the hair color, the hair shape of the character, and kind of get a feel for what the overall wig is going to look like. Here, I just kind of eyeballed it and then worked from there. Once I had the top part done, I actually did move on to the very bottom of the wig, which I hadn't touched yet. I wanted to leave the very bottom random strands so that I could see where it is that I needed to move the hair, because once it goes on someone's head, things are going to look a little bit different. So those I saved for last so I could see just exactly how I wanted to shape them before I gave it over to the person I was giving it to. And once that's done, it was really just making sure that everything looked right. Here's where I usually take a pair of tiny scissors and I'll start cutting away at all the flyaway hairs in the wig just to make sure it looks as good as possible. And then I'll give it a once over with the hairspray just to make sure that everything's in place and give it a final blow dry. This is to make sure that it can hold itself as much as possible, especially if you're going to be, transporting this wig. You want to make sure that you can really have it keep its shape. And that about wraps it up. For the most part, wig styling can be easy on a small scale like this. It still took me 2 hours to do this, but I mean, all in all, it's a relatively straightforward process, and hopefully you guys can get a hang of it and have as much fun as I did.